Number 1. White is dead lost, down a piece, the attack crashing through, and most players would resign right here. But this is a draw, and the move that saves it is one you've walked past in your own games 100 times. Black is Mikhail Tal, the reigning world champion, and he looks finished against the 17-year-old Bobby Fischer. So Tal stops counting material, it won't save him, and looks at Fischer's king instead. Queen to g4, check. The king runs. Check again. There's no square that escapes, and every time the king tries to hide, the queen swings back and checks from the other side. Fischer can't make progress, can't escape, can't win. The most feared attacker in the world, held to a draw by a man with almost nothing but a queen and a clear head. That's the first save, and the most important one in chess. When you're losing, stop counting your pieces and start hunting the enemy king. A king that can't escape checks is a king that draws, no matter how much material sits on the other side. Number 2 is over 1,000 years old, and it still breaks people's brains. White to move and draw, and it looks flat out impossible. Black has a pawn sprinting toward promotion. White's king is miles away on the wrong side of the board. It cannot catch that pawn. The geometry simply does not allow it. And White's own pawn? The black king stops it easily. So this is lost, obviously. Except, watch the king walk on a diagonal. That diagonal does 2 jobs at once. With every step it chases the enemy pawn down, and it also threatens to run across and shepherd White's own pawn home. Black cannot answer both. Stop one pawn, and the king catches the other. It's the famous Réti idea, composed back in 1921, and the first time you see it work, it genuinely feels like the board is breaking its own rules. The king never rushes straight at the pawn, that loses. It walks the diagonal, holding 2 threats in the air at the same time, and forces black to choose which one to stop. Whichever black picks, the other one saves the game. 2 threats, 1 king, and a position that looked completely hopeless dissolves into a draw. Engines today confirm it in a heartbeat, but Réti worked it out a century ago with nothing but his own calculation, and to this day, it's the single most famous endgame study ever composed. The position every strong player has seen, because it rewires how you think about what a king can and cannot do. Number 3. Same impossible feeling, but this time you're not saving a draw, you're stealing a win. White has a pawn 1 step from queening, but black has a rook built to stop it. And the natural move loses everything. Push the pawn, make a queen, and black has a trick, a check. The rook pins your new queen, and it's stalemate. The win gone. So you don't make a queen. You promote to a rook instead, the weaker piece, on purpose. Now there's no stalemate, you threaten mate, and black is lost. Why a rook and not a queen? Because a new queen guards too much. It controls the very square that lets black pin it and force the stalemate draw. The rook controls less, and that's exactly the point. It leaves black with no stalemate, no escape, and a threat of mate that can't be stopped. This is the Saavedra position, named after a Spanish priest who spotted it more than a century ago, and grandmasters still teach it today to drill one brutal lesson into beginners. The strongest move on the board is often the smallest, humblest one you would never even think to look at. Number 4. The one from the start, and it has a name. They call it the swindle of the century. White is Larry Evans, down a knight against Samuel Reshevsky, one of the strongest players alive. Evans himself wrote that black can win as he pleases. So instead of resigning, Evans said a little prayer and played on. Black is winning, still winning, and then black grabs a pawn with the queen, the most natural move on the board. That's the mistake. White checks with the queen. Black has to take it, king takes queen, no choice. And now the rook slides over with check, sitting on the 7th rank, and the black king cannot capture it, because the instant it does, black has no legal move anywhere. Stalemate. Here's the cruel part. Black had a clean win just 1 move earlier, a quiet queen move instead of grabbing that pawn, and Reshevsky takes home the full point. Instead, he reached for the obvious capture, and a dead-lost position became a draw at the United States Championship, in the very same event where Bobby Fischer went a perfect 11 wins and 0 losses. Evans prayed for a miracle, and the miracle was a stalemate. And remember the stakes. This was the US Championship, the strongest field in the country, where half a point could decide the entire tournament. Evans didn't just save face. He stole a result out of thin air against one of the best players in the world, from a position any engine would call dead lost. Number 5 is even more diabolical, because the victim is the number 5 player in the world. Black is Larry Christensen, completely busted against Alexander Belyavsky, a 4-time Soviet champion. So Christensen does the only thing a swindler can. He makes the position as dangerous as humanly possible. He throws a knight into white's king. Then he offers his queen. Beliavsky refuses. He offers it again and again. 4 times Christensen dangles his queen like bait, praying for perpetual check, and 4 times Beliavsky correctly says no. Beliavsky is winning the entire time. All he has to do is take the queen one last time, so he takes it. And that's the trap. Christensen slams down a rook with check, and now white, up a queen and 2 rooks, is staring at the same nightmare. Take the rook, it's stalemate. Refuse it, the checks never end. A world-class grandmaster, one of the 5 best players on the planet, forced to shake hands and accept half a point, from a position that had been completely winning 20 moves earlier. That is the art of the swindle. You don't win by playing well. You win by making the position so dangerous, so full of traps, that even one of the best players on earth blinks at the wrong moment. Christensen was lost. He knew he was lost. And instead of resigning, he set 4 traps in a row and waited for one to catch. That's the mindset this whole video is about. Number 6 is a warning, because this trap cuts both ways. Black is Vasily Smyslov, a future world champion, and he is winning against Osip Bernstein. All Smyslov has to do is bring his rook down, and the game is over. He grabs the white pawn with a check, certain it's clean. But look at the board. If white's king just steps forward, and black takes that last pawn, white has no move. Stalemate. The win, gone. Smyslov saw it one move in time and swerved, but he came within a single careless capture of throwing away a 1 game against a grandmaster. That's the point. The stalemate trap doesn't only rescue lost games, it ambushes 1-1s just as easily. A future world champion nearly handed away a full point against it. So every single time you're winning and your hand reaches for the obvious capture, the one that ends it, stop and look twice. The cleanest looking move in a 1 position is exactly where stalemate hides. Smyslov was one of the most precise endgame players who ever lived, and even he had to catch himself at the very last second. If it can almost happen to him, it can absolutely happen to you in your next blitz game. And number 7 proves it, because the people who fall for this are the best on earth. A world champion did it. Garry Kasparov, in the World Blitz Championship, moving too fast in a time scramble, played 1 careless move and stalemated his opponent when he was completely winning. Magnus Carlsen has had the same trap set against him more than once. Even Vladimir Kramnik, in a World Championship candidates match, was saved by it. His opponent grabbed a free rook, and Kramnik's queen threw itself at the king until white had to take it in stalemate. The pattern never changes, and it never stops working, no matter how good you are. Which brings us to number 8, the lesson sitting under all of this. Every single save you've seen today is one idea wearing different clothes. The perpetual check, the impossible king march, the underpromotion, the desperado stalemate, none of them are luck, and none of them are talent you weren't born with. They are patterns, that's all. And now they live in your head, which means you can use them. A lost position is only lost the moment you resign it. So the next time your hand drifts toward that button, stop. Look at the enemy king, count the squares it cannot reach, and ask the only question that matters in a losing position. Is there a way to leave my opponent with nothing to play? Because if there is, you were never losing. You just hadn't found it yet. Start with that one habit. In every bad position, before you even think about resigning, force yourself to look for a check that repeats, a piece you can throw away to freeze the board, a stalemate hiding 1 move deep. Most of the time there's nothing there, but the one time there is, you'll save a game everyone else would have thrown away. I'll see you in the next one.